welcome to Boilermaker Lounge. I am Sam Sprunger, joined this week by our buddy Dustin Shooty Grant, running, I don't know, Dustin, maybe right now for the national championship at the NAIA level. So that's why you're in with this week for me, or with me. So appreciate it. And best of luck to Grant. How are we?
Yes, first of all, excuse me, best of luck to Grant. You could put a donut on a stick and put it in front of me, and I still probably wouldn't be running. I might reach, but good for him. And hopefully everything goes well. That would be cool for them to bring a national championship back. I'm doing great. Little tired. It's been a late night, but we've got one more day of Purdue basketball before we head into a new week.
Yeah, a difficult one last night in the semifinals of the Baha championship in the Bahamas, in Nassau, Bahamas. Purdue beats Memphis 80-71. We talked about it on the post-game show right afterwards, Dustin. This was a thank goodness we got out of that one with a win.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a game where, especially in the first half, they just didn't play well, weren't shooting the basketball well, allowed Memphis to get into a little bit of a rhythm. But again, Purdue kind of allowed Memphis to get into the paint and dominate that area. They scored 38 of their points in the painted area. They had 4 3-pointers. 3 of them were made in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, right.
But so I think Purdue's defense in some ways tightened up a little bit. Now, Memphis isn't a very good shooting team, but still not your best defensive effort against a really athletic team. And it's not going to get any easier with playing Texas Tech tonight.
No, and that I was going to mention that Texas Tech had a tough game against Wake Forest, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth. But a couple of teams that were expected to play in this game kind of struggled in their first game. Let's talk about Trey Kaufman-Renn had a pretty decent first half until right at the end when he drew his second foul, and there was a couple of chippy kind of non-calls or calls that went not necessarily as fouls but against Purdue that kind of got him riled up, and he drew a technical foul. And I think we both posted at the same time on the platform formerly known as Twitter about him needing to keep his head. It's really unusual to see him, especially at the senior experience level, lose his cool like he did.
Yeah, he had that issue, maybe not in the same explosive manner last year, but you could tell that when he got frustrated, his body language was just bad. And that was kind of something the coaching staff harped on throughout last season. And then in the postgame, Matt Painter said, he's got to keep his composure because we need him. He wasn't able to play the first 8 minutes of the second half, and he sat basically the final minute of the first half. So you're going a 9-minute stretch of game time without Trey Kaufman-Renn when your top 2 players in the game. And he had 10 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. I think it was 3 assists at the half. Then the second half, because of the foul issues, he had 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist then in the second half. So he just wasn't as effective.
You hit the stat line. You hit that stat line exact. It was 10, 9, and 3.
Yeah, perfect. I was a little unsure about the assists. I knew the other 2 for a fact. But you have to have somebody who can produce at that level, or if they're not producing in terms of points and rebounds, he's still a very good passer to be able to kind of manipulate the defense. He has to be available, has to be on the floor. So I think it was just a frustrating game. And I believe, Sam, they're going to have to work through this again because I believe it's the same officiating crew that will be on the game. So you have to set that aside. You've got to be able to play through it. And I thought what was interesting, and he's mentioned this actually before, but in the postgame, Painter said, when we do scrimmages and stuff, I'm the official, and I stand at about half court, and I don't run. He's like, so think of how around. Yeah. So he's like, I'm doing a lot of guesswork. And he said, players will argue with me, and he says, play through it. You got to learn to play through it. And so, it's probably a little bit different because this one means something, right? Like these games mean
Right.
something. They want to win an MTE. They want to win these. They want to rack up as many wins as they possibly can. But yes, you do need to keep your composure in those moments because that could have been a really costly third foul. And at the end of the game too, like Memphis was still in it and Trey Coppin-Wren was not available because he fouled out. And that technical foul was a big reason why.
Mm-hmm. Well, and think about this is, first 2 games of the season, TKR wasn't there. And Purdue really kind of struggled to find their identity without him on the floor. Now, that's the same thing if he's on the bench because of fouls, I'm not saying they can't be successful. They won their 2 games without TKR in the lineup. But points don't come as easy. Opportunities don't come as easy. We've talked about the fact that when the shots aren't falling like they weren't tonight or last night to start out when he was not on the floor, they had to find and you don't have that comfort and that security blanket of get it to the guy that shoots about 60%, and if he wants to take the shot, then great. If not, he can dish it out and open up other shots. It's just it's something that I'm gonna say. It was an anomaly. He wasn't ready for it, and it kind of caught him off guard, and he had a bad game in that aspect. I'm gonna guess.
Right, but I think the teachable moment here is, and he should know this from last season. Like you're going to get games where you're going to get called for ticky-tack stuff, or there's going to be games where you get mauled and that nothing's going to get called. And so that's where you have to control your emotion, control your body language, that sort of stuff, because it's going to happen. This is a long season. It's 31 regular season games. It's the postseason. It's the Big Ten tournament. So you have to know how important you are to your team. And he's still battling that. Like he's still battling when things aren't going his way, or when he gets a few bad calls that go against him, he can get a little argumentative. And so he just has to keep that in check. And, it's not going to happen every game, but those games when it does happen, he's got to try to keep a level head.
Well, CJ Cox played a big, helpful role tonight, one that we hadn't seen him give to this point. We knew he was capable. Last year, he did a similar thing against Alabama where he blew up for big points and hitting big shots. He did a lot of that tonight or last night as well, with 18 points, and I do believe we talked about it on the post game reaction. He had 13 in the second half. And along with Fletcher Lawyer's 18, those two really did kind of save the day for Purdue because TKR only had 2 points in that second half. Braden Smith had a big fat nothing burger when it came to points. Now, on the other hand, with him, though, he had 10 assists in the second half.
Right. It was almost like Purdue was passing the baton as to who was going to keep them in or control the game. In the first half early, it was TKR. Then you passed the baton to CJ Cox, who kind of took over that middle stretch. And then at the end of the game, it really became Fletcher Lawyer. And then I thought Oscar Clough, he took a while to get going last night, but once he only had 3 shot attempts in that game,
right,
and he made all 3.
Yep.
And finishes with 11 points, 7 rebounds. It was an awfully quiet 11 points and 7 rebounds. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, like I don't know if you have those numbers in front of you, but how much was in the second half? Like I think he had all 7 of his rebounds in the second half. Maybe it was 6.
In the second half, he had 5 points and 6 rebounds. Okay. But he also had 2 assists.
Because it might have been when Trey Kaufman-Wren had to sit out with his third foul that Clough got that 1 rebound, because I looked at the stat sheet and I thought, just kind of, I'm not counting rebounds or things like that, but I just kind of assumed he probably has 2 or 3. No, he had nothing, and I was like, well, that's weird.
We talk about that center position. Him and Jacobson in that first half combined for 8 points, but 2 rebounds. And of course, we got to talk about the fact that Jacobson had 3 fouls in that first half, so he was very late. He only played 4 minutes. Yeah. So like he didn't even have a chance really to really get anything going because he got in so much quick foul trouble that it just didn't come to fruition and he didn't have any rebounds in the second half. Jacobson did.
No, he was not good. He's got to learn to be vertical in certain situations. And there were times when I think he argued the call, but I mean, it was a clear foul. He would start straight up, and then as soon as the ball would get to about the other guy's shoulders, he would come down. And so like you just have that's part of the learning process. But he is another guy that can't be in foul trouble, because I think, as well as Oscar played in that second half, and he did block some shots in that game, he did provide at least a little bit of rim resistance, I'll call it. But Jacobson is really the one who is the shot eraser and the shot alterer in those situations. And that's a big reason why Memphis was able to get to the paint and get some easy buckets, because they just couldn't use Jacobson. He was in foul trouble. He wasn't defending the paint relatively well. They're going to need him tonight against Texas Tech, because they will attack the paint as well. So, and by the way, I need to mention this too. And I'm trying to do the math here as to what it is for the season. I can probably look really quick, but what's the luxury of Purdue now for, let's set last season aside, but basically now, the last two authentic big men, Zach Edey and Oscar Clough, the ability to step to the free throw line and make those. He was 5 of 5 from the free throw line last night. And some of those came in some big situations. I'm looking at the season totals. He is, 10 of 13. He's 10 of 13 this season.
I was going to say maybe 2, but yeah. So 3. Yeah. And that's huge. Is your big guy being able to shoot free throws, because then it doesn't become the hack-a-shack style of thing to, well, you know what? We'll just foul him and put him on the line. Let's go put the guy at the bottom of our bench, big guy bench, in to get in a couple of fouls and give him a couple of hard fouls, and let's make sure he doesn't hit his free throws.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 78% with this. This is an under appreciated statistic. He was a 78% free throw shooter last year. Right now, he's right at 77%, and it's just one of those things where he can grab a rebound late in the game and get fouled, and you feel confident he can go down and knock down at least one, but more times than not, maybe 2, and then you're not. What that also does is you don't rush to get it out of his hands and like risk a turnover. He can secure the basketball and say, yeah, I don't mind getting fouled because I know I can go down to the other end and knock him down. You're not trying to get it out to Braden or Fletch and risk a turnover in those situations.
I'm looking, and the thing that Purdue had been really enjoying the past couple of games, the game against Alabama and against Akron, was a real big rebounding edge, and they did not have that last night. They had it to the point where they out-rebounded Memphis 37-34 and they were out-rebounded on the offensive end, and only out-rebounded Memphis by 4 on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that and he had 11 rebounds, but TKR just didn't seem like he was as he didn't feel. I think maybe he didn't feel like he could be as aggressive as he had been the past two games, because I really do think last night, with the way he started out before he started getting called for those ticky-tack fouls that you talked about, he was being as aggressive as he was against Alabama. He was being as aggressive as he was against Akron, and he had 5 or so rebounds really quick early, and then he got a couple of fouls and he kind of tailed off and slowed up. He could have been pushing 17, 18 rebounds if he would have been able to maintain, but it just wasn't there tonight or last night. It just wasn't there against Memphis.
Yeah, there was, and I think the numbers are going to look a little bit skewed. I don't remember exactly at what point in the game, but I know Memphis, they got like 3 or 4 offensive rebounds on one possession near the end of the game.
Yes.
And it wasn't, the game wasn't decided, but they were going to need something big to happen in order to come back.
I think it was still a 5 or 6 point game at that point.
It might have been.
Yeah.
But so that was a little skewed, but at one point it was 7-3 Purdue on the offensive glass. And they were at one point, like early when TKR was dominating, they had a sizable rebounding advantage, but obviously that got wiped away. Mm-hmm. And you just see like how important it is to have, even if you go with a 4-guard lineup, you have to have, which Purdue doesn't, but you have to have a guy that's either really good at wiggling his way in there or you got to have somebody with some size, because Clough was in there and even like Lawyer couldn't get rebounds. CJ Cox struggled. Braden wasn't swooping in and getting them. So like Oscar was still putting a body on guys, and they just couldn't. They got around the ball, but it seemed like at times Memphis just wanted it more. And I hate saying that in sports. I think it's overused, but they just chased down the balls quicker. And so his importance to this team in terms of rebounding, I think is just as important as what he can do in terms of scoring.
Well, before we move on to talk about Texas Tech tonight, the one thing that I really that this game did give me a good feeling about was the fact that the main guys did struggle. Okay, and I wasn't excited about that. Don't get me wrong,
yeah, right?
But the fact that Omer Meyer came in and hit a couple of big shots. CJ Cox hit a couple of big shots. And this is during the first half. This is before Cox blew up in the second half. But, Benter came in. He that was in the second half, the dunk that he had. But he went in and had some good minutes, at least, when TKR had to come out. And it made me feel good to the fact that when the big three or the big shooters aren't producing the way they should be or normally we expect, let's say it that way, Purdue still's got the weapons that can still put points on the board and keep it. It's not like it was last year to where if those three weren't producing, we were kind of screwed.
Yeah, there was a level of truth to that. Like you had to kind of scratch and claw to find somebody who's going to be productive for you off the bench. But no, I mean, I think that this is why you enjoy having depth. And that showed tonight. CJ did some really good things, as we talked about. I think one guy who I think we just keep waiting for him to have his big night is Jakari. And another one
minutes last night.
Yeah, he got that layup he had that really nice lob pass to Jacobson for 2 in the first half, and it looked like that might be the game-changing moment. It obviously wasn't, because we had a much tighter game. He had a layup on a fast break that he couldn't quite convert. It's just, I think he just needs to see some shots go in. But point being is, as you mentioned, it seems like, when TKR was out of the lineup that first game, Jack Benner was the guy that stepped up. And then second game, it was Liam Murphy, who had 11 points off the bench. And I think he played 10, maybe 13 minutes. I don't remember the exact number. He was incredibly efficient. You've had other guys step up in some of these other games. And this is just one of those moments where you're going to have those other guys step up. And CJ, that was CJ. That was CJ on Thursday night.
Well, it definitely, and I mentioned this on the post game. This was the sloppiest game that we've seen, in my eyes, that we've seen from the guys this season to this point. Just because they didn't seem like they were ready for what Memphis sent or brought to them. That's not lack of preparation. It just didn't seem like. I think they had anticipation of, okay, they've got these things. They're not the greatest of shooters. Well, they shot 42%, which if we were talking, I think that's better than their season average. So like they're a little bit better. They were a lot more aggressive. We talked about the fact that they turned the ball over. They only turned the ball over 13 times compared to what they're used to turning the ball over a little bit more. Commit foul wise, they only turned the ball over 12 times. They had 13 personal fouls. They usually foul 23 times. Like those were their averages, and they played a better game than what we had seen from them up to this point. And maybe they just weren't ready for that, and they didn't react very well to it.
And part of it, too, is I'm going to say, I think that Memphis is still kind of learning and growing. We talked about that last night. I think the other thing is, Penny Hardaway did change up that lineup. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to pretend to be like a Memphis expert. I watched one of their games until last night. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on them, but I think that sometimes when you're still kind of searching and trying to fit the right pieces together and find out what rotations and what lineups work, maybe Penny Hardaway found something that works. That could be part of this too. And so I don't think schematically much changed in terms of what they did or how they operated. I think one, their athleticism caused a problem, their ability to get to the basket. I think two, and I think this was the biggest issue, was Purdue just was A, missing shots, and B, struggled with their composure. And then, C is maybe that's what Memphis found. Maybe they have, this might be a really tough team now from the rest of the way. I don't know, but we'll see where that goes. But it wasn't the prettiest game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Memphis rolls with that lineup and starts beating some people now.
Well, though we did talk about this, excuse me, in the post game, is they're expected to win the American. So I mean that tells me, and that's probably my mistake on just assuming that they have that much of a turnover in their roster that they're going to struggle. They might struggle early, but they've obviously got enough athletes that the coaches and the writers in for the American think they're pretty darn good enough to win the conference. So I mean that's not something to shake a stick at, as some people would say. I don't know why you'd shake a stick at anything, but that it is what it is on that. But Purdue does walk away with a win. They improved to 5-0. And they will play Texas Tech. The 15th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders, Red Raiders beat the Wake Forest Demon Deacons 84-83 in the other game of the Bahamas championship semifinals. Dustin, I'm looking.
Dalton, you have to go back away for Dalton.
That's throwing it back, isn't it? Dustin, I'm looking at the team stats compared on ESPN here. Okay, both teams average 88.3 points a game. Texas Tech gives up 72.8 points a game. Purdue gives up 71.6 points a game. Purdue shoots 48% from the field. Texas Tech 46% from the field. Rebounds, Purdue 43.5, Texas Tech 41.5. My goodness gracious. Yeah. This is about on paper. This is about as evenly matched game as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, I think, watching that game, I mean, I think JT Toppin stands out more than anything. And I've watched a couple of Tech's games this year, not a lot. But this feels hard to say because Texas Tech won the game. But you watched that game. I was almost more impressed with Wake Forest than I was Texas Tech, and I don't know how that's possible. I think Wake Forest's athleticism is so surprising that it probably just caught me off guard, even though I've watched them play multiple times now. But this is a Texas Tech team that has 5 guys averaging double figures. Like, these dudes can score, so it's not just JT Toppin and 4 other guys he's alongside with. Now, having said that, he is the engine that makes them go. He's the straw that stirs the drink, whatever you want to say. 24.5 points, 11.5 rebounds per game. That dude can do it all, and Purdue's going to have their hands full with him.
Well, Grant McCaslin, he's the coach of Texas Tech. He in the post game interview on the court said, Wake Forest pretty much beat us up all over the place, especially on the boards. So like that tells me that they're susceptible to that. So if Purdue can get the keep out of foul trouble, and honestly, I think I imagine that TKR and Toppin will probably match up against one another. If we can get if one gets in foul trouble, that opens the door for the other one a little bit more, to be a little bit more, make a mark on the game. But it also, if TKR can play with that intensity that he had, get the 2 previous games, and then the first 6-7 minutes against Memphis, to where he's just a beast going after all loose balls, just being in the right position. That tells me that Texas Tech is susceptible to being out rebounded and being one and dones. If they're not hitting their shots, they can be one and dones. If the Boilers can get into position and really put a body on somebody and get those rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, when you see peak Oscar Clough and Trey Kaufman-Renn together, I don't know that anybody can out rebound Purdue. I mean, those guys were dominant in wins over Alabama. And I know it's Akron, and I know Alabama is more like they're surrounding the perimeter, so they're not necessarily chasing down rebounds. But Alabama rebound, I don't know what the final number was in that Illinois game, but they were able to rebound the ball a little bit better against Illinois.
And real quick,
yeah.
Dustin, Clough and TKR almost out-rebounded the entire Akron team.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that it's, it is Akron. It's a little bit lower of a level of competition, but they almost out-rebounded the whole team.
Right. So that does make a difference. This is a Texas Tech team that I think one of the this is not going to be quite like playing Alabama. It's almost kind of a mix because Texas Tech averages right around 25, 26 three-pointers per game. So they will shoot the long ball, and they have been pretty successful at it. What'd you say their percentage was, 38?
I didn't say.
Oh.
They I was talking about Memphis at that point. Let's see here. Their totals for the season 3-point. Three-pointers made. They're 48 of 126, whatever that math. That comes out to be just over 30-some%, right? I think they've hit 12 each of their wins, I think is what they said.
Yeah. So they can stretch, but so Purdue's going to have to defend the perimeter better. Now, that wasn't an issue against Memphis because Memphis has such a poor shooting percentage from long range. So I think the game plan is similar to Memphis. Or excuse me, it's been a long 24 hours. It's similar to what it was against Alabama, just in terms of their defensively. But you don't also want to let this team get easy buckets. Like you don't want to let this team get around the rim and start feeling itself. And kind of the same thing Purdue does, where they can work the inside, and then it opens up the 3-point game for them. If Purdue's going to need to take that away, like this is going to have to be, I think, their best defensive effort of the year, because Texas Tech can kill you in a multitude of ways. Alabama can really only kill them with the 3. I think Texas Tech can beat them both on the inside and around the perimeter.
Well, and JT Toppin is a Naismith Award on the watch list, so like he's a pretty darn good basketball player, and he's one that that a lot of people think that could be in that finalist group when we get towards the end of the season, and the fact that he's averaging 24 points a game in 33 minutes, that's pretty efficient, and I guess the big thing is not letting anybody else really take off. I mean, Lawan Watts averages 14 points a game. What is it? I guess that's the big men that average. The rest are guards that average, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 men, guys that average 10 points or more. And so that's a lot. They spread the love.
Well, and they have their own Braden Smith. Christian Anderson he's averaging 9 assists. He's got almost 3 steals per game this season. That dude is he's a big time player too. And so it's going to be interesting to me to see who they put on him. I would assume it's going to be Braden, but they may also throw CJ on there. How quickly might they bring Omer off the bench to try to give some size and keep fresh bodies on him? Like this is more than just JT Toppin. Like I think I think he's the headliner here, obviously, but there are other guys that can get going. And so it's going to be like, to me, it almost feels like Christian Anderson is if you let JT Toppin go off, that's fine, but don't let Christian Anderson get into a rhythm. Don't let him get, I'm assuming this is the same way teams want to defend Braden Smith, right? Like try to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Don't let him play make. Don't let him find his open shooters. And if you can do that, you're going to put yourself in a much better position to win. So that to me, like if Toppin scores 30, then that's just kind of like right? Like sometimes Braden's just going to have 30 points. But if
TKR
or TKR, but you don't want the other one to get going. And so that's what Purdue's going to, I think that's going to be the tough task for Purdue and I think that they will try to get the ball out of his hands. I don't know. I'm interested to see how Purdue schemes this up because this is one of those, to me, it's similar to Purdue. Like, I don't know what you do. And
yeah, they've got they go relatively deep. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys averaging at least 12 minutes a game. So that means they're running through a good rotation. That's relatively a deep rotation. And I mean, shoot, we've got one, and we've got another guy that's at 9.7 minutes. So like I mean, they've got 10 deep now. Don't get me wrong; there's a couple of them that have only played one game,
right?
But still, they're getting 12 minutes or whatever. But it's possible they could rotate through 10 guys. Just a bit. I mean, Purdue can go that deep. Last night they only went to 9, and Jakari Harris only played 9 minutes during that time.
Right.
So essentially, they played 8 deep. And Meyer didn't play a ton of minutes, even though he did. I mean, I think he played 12 minutes. Benter played 13. Jacobs. So like we had 5 that played 27 minutes or more for Purdue last night against Memphis. So it's not that we can't go deep. It's just we don't go as deep depending on what's working and what's not. You know, when CJ Cox has the hot hand and Fletcher Lawyer has a high hand, you don't necessarily want to take Braden out because he's been dishing the ball. And right. Clough, we need a big man in there because TKR's out, you know. So there's some games that you're not going to go rotate as deep. But Texas Tech looks like at this point, I think they're going to be the toughest opponent yet this year, just simply because they replicate a lot of what Purdue looks like to me.
I think so too. The one thing I'm going to push back a little bit on the deep comment. They played only 8 guys against Illinois, and 2 of them were less than 10 minutes.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Then last night, they played 10 guys, but 3 of them played less than 2 minutes.
I see that now. Yeah,
they had Jalen Petty is really their only consistent bench guy. So Purdue could potentially wear these guys down. And this is what benefits Purdue is they're coming off obviously a back-to-back. And what they're in let's see. Atwell was the only one who didn't play at least 32 minutes in that game. Now, Purdue, obviously, like Fletcher Lawyer, Braden, TKR, they're all going to play 30-plus minutes, assuming they're not in foul trouble. But This is where I think Purdue's depth is going to come in and probably help them out a little bit because they're going to be a little bit fresher. They didn't have to play or log as many minutes. So if Purdue can get Texas Tech in foul trouble early, which who knows? We don't know what this officiating crew is going to do.
You never know which team they're going to pick the whistle, have a quick whistle on.
We were left clueless all night last night. But I do think that's where Purdue's depth is going to be an advantage in this game because Texas Tech really only has the one guy off the bench that's fairly reliable.
I apologize. What I was doing was just looking at minutes per game. I didn't look at games played or how they got their minutes when they did. So I was looking at the very limited minutes here. So that's our stats that ESPN provides right now. So that maybe it is one that Purdue's depth can wear them down. But at this point still on paper, these guys look as almost not exactly because they do some things a little different, but almost a mirror image to a certain extent as Purdue.
Yeah. I mean, and they've got some big guys on their roster that they don't use. Like, so what's going to be interesting to me is I think you're going to see two things. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see Purdue always doubles the post. So how does JT Toppin handle that? And then you're going to be able to obviously rotate, and that's where Trey Coppinren's going to have to stay out of foul trouble. Now you can obviously. Oscar Clough can take on some of those fouls. Daniel Jacobson can take on some of those fouls. So there's that. But then the other thing is, I think if they can keep a fresh body on Christian Anderson, I think that like Jakari, CJ, Braden, you could probably throw Fletch on there a few times. I think Purdue can keep fresh bodies on these guys, and I think that's what's going to be difficult for them. I think, and I don't. Let me check really quick because I don't want to misspeak because I did watch them play. Watch them play Illinois, but I believe that's what bit them against the Illini. The Illinois only played 8 guys in that game, so maybe not. Nonetheless, Illinois' bench was a little bit more productive than Texas Tech's in that game, which has been pretty much the story all season long. So, yeah, this is if you can wear them down, then I think Purdue's going to put itself in a really good position.
Well, it's definitely something that this is like I said, this is the toughest game, just because with Alabama they were a perimeter heavy team, whereas you've got Texas Tech, they do both pretty decently. And with having JT Toppin as the guy in the middle or down low, that's going to require a good defensive output from our guys on against him. That's not to say shut him down. That's to say don't foul all the time. Don't let him just absolutely blow up and allow Anderson to also distribute at the same time. Hey, if we want to limit him to 18 points and keep Anderson down to 5 assists or 6 assists, that's not a bad defensive job on both of those guys. That could be enough to beat Texas Tech tonight. It really could be.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not going to contain those guys. So you hope to slow them down, and then maybe if they have a bad shooting night or if they get tired legs or whatever the case might be. I mean, I think Purdue pound for pound, like I think this is an even match. God dang, Sam, we can't get to the end of this week soon enough. I can't speak anymore. But I think it's pretty evenly matched. I think Purdue's depth is in favor. And then the other thing is I know Purdue got it going in the second half and ended up shooting around like 33% from 3 against Memphis. I can't help but think usually after a game like that, they snap out of it pretty quick. So it makes me think like they could get off to a hot start and everything's fallen from the 3-point range. And they have a night where they shoot 40 or 45% from 3-point range. And if that's the case, then I think it's good night Texas Tech. But you can't necessarily anticipate that. So we'll see. I think this is going to be a really fun basketball game. And like you said, this is the matchup that everybody expected when these teams were announced.
I think one thing that they've got to make sure, no matter what, no matter what, even if those shots are falling, don't fall in love with just the 3-pointer. You know what I mean? You can't, because eventually, more than likely, you're not going to hit 30 of them in a game. Right. So you're not going to want to fall in love with it to the point where, you're totally neglecting and ignoring what's going on down in the post. Keep feeding that. Hey, even if it's, hey, we're going to toss it down in there and kick it back out, at least you're getting the option down there to where if they're just vacating and doing one-on-one with TKR, guess what? TKR is going to beat whoever he is against most of the time. He's not going to beat him all the time, but he's going to at least get really good looks. If he's one-on-one because they're not vacating They're not crashing down and doubling down. That opens the door for a lot of points in the paint as well. Plus, it opens up that outside still. Just don't only fall in love with that, and especially if they're not falling. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Purdue actually does a really good job of that. At least they have so far this season, where it's not just we're going to chuck it up until it starts going in. I think that they are confident enough to like you saw last night, even though the shots weren't falling, if they're open, I'm going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that if that was anybody but Fletcher Lawyer, who took that 3 out of the second half where he was from like between midcourt and 3-point range, you go, what the hell are you doing? You haven't hit a shot all night.
Right.
But because it's Fletch, you feel comfortable with that shot. You live with that shot because he's in rhythm. And he's a career 41, 42% 3-point shooter.
And eventually water finds its balance.
Exactly. So I think Purdue does a pretty good job of that. But yes, even if they're falling and they become a little bit too attractive still, because I think what happens is eventually the defense adjusts. They come out, and then that's when really TKR and Oscar can go to work. Because then you're, like you said, you're going to be in one-on-one. Just get Duncan down to the low post. If that floater's working, that jump hook's working for TKR, lights out.
There's not many better than him, including JT Toppin. When it comes to if he's got that hook working and he's feeling the groove, oh my goodness, there's not many that are better than him in the post with that move. Even from out to about 10 to 12 feet, he can shoot that hook.
Yeah, free throw line, I would say. Yep.
Yeah, and so like. It's definitely, it's not because I'm a Purdue guy. I think honestly, if you're being truthful and honest, I would say Purdue probably has a little bit better of an overall top to bottom roster, but is definitely susceptible to a little bit of foul trouble once in a while, a little bit of cold shooting. But who isn't, susceptible to cold shooting? It's just a matter of finding the part of the game that isn't cold at the time that you need it to warm up.
I feel like the best thing about this Purdue team is it seems like when they don't play well, and again, we're 5 games in, so what do I know? But I think they get frustrated when they don't play well. And even though they won, I think they're going to be frustrated with how they played. And so I think they're going to come out with their hair on fire. Like, they know what's at stake this season. And even though if they lose this game, again, it's like we talked about with Alabama. If they lose this game, it doesn't really hurt them. Nobody cares, right?
Right. Except for me, once expecting 40-0.
40-0. Every show mention it. But it just seems to add fuel to the fire. Like, we know we can play better. So let's go out there and prove we can play better. And so you saw the rebounding tenacity TKR came out with against Alabama. Fletcher in the second half after a poor first half against Memphis. We don't have a ton of examples, obviously, but I would say even Oscar Clough in that game against Akron when they established him early in that game, and he was, plowing through people to get dunks and get rebounds. Like, when guys on this team don't play well, they want to make it a point. So I almost think that the way Purdue played, as nervous as fans probably were throughout that game, I think it may be another one of those good things, a little added motivation heading into tonight's game.
Well, I think you mentioned it. Maybe it was during the post game last night. This is a building block, learning experience, building block type of game to where they can learn a lot of things about it because of the way they came out and played. And you know what? We're not doing that again, Right. And with having the senior leadership that is there, they're not going to let the young guys get to the point where they're going to let that they're not going to let it snowball. Like last year it did. It snowballed to that 5-game. What was it? A 5-game losing streak, wasn't it?
It was 4 or 5.
Or 4.
I think it was 4. Yeah.
And then they lost 6 out of 8 or something at the end of the season before the tournament. Yeah. But that kind of snowballed. I don't know that it's going to be allowed to. I mean, not saying they won't falter and maybe lose, but they're going to play, I think, a world better than they did last night, tonight. Even if they were to fall, it's going to look a lot better than what it did.
Yeah, I think so. I think I think this is going to be similar to the Alabama game when, if Alabama would have beat Purdue that night because they hit 25 threes, you just tip your cap and say, yeah, we played really well. Maybe we gave up a few too many open looks, but they were hitting tough shots throughout the night. And I think that's probably, if you can leave the Bahamas saying that, like, even if Purdue doesn't win this game, but you can say, hey, you know what, that second game, they just beat us. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds counterproductive or counterintuitive or whatever counter you want to kind of throw out there. But I think that you just want to see a better performance of this team. And if another team just has a better night than you, then so be it.
I was going to say, I've coached baseball for over 20. Well, I have over 20 years of coaching experience of baseball. And I would tell my team, look, if we play our best game and we lose, I can handle that. If we make mistakes and we lose, and it's because of the mistakes we made, that's where I have an issue. If we go out and we can walk off the field or the court, in this case, if you can walk off the court and say we did everything we could and we played really well and we still got beat, you can live with it. You're not happy with it, but you can live with it. There are things to build off of when it comes to that point. So definitely going to be a really exciting, hopefully anyways, game tonight against the Texas Tech Red Raiders, 9:30 Eastern. Whew, late night on a Friday on CBS Sportsnet. The championship of the Baha Championship. The Boilers go for their 5th straight year of an MTE championship or trophy, I guess is the best way to put it. They get a neat trophy. And almost got to play against Miles Colvin in the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, but fell just short. But this is going to be one of those games that you can really say win or lose. It's going to be a game that you can say, look, this is a good experience when it comes into March, and which is exactly why Matt Painter likes these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, he said it in the post game and talking about Memphis, like, the Big Ten, not everybody plays exactly the same, but there's a lot of similar styles. And when you play teams from other leagues and, different levels, then you get to experience different defenses and see new offenses. And it just kind of battle tests your team. And so this will be another opportunity where Purdue's going to be battle tested in a neutral court, even though if there are 2,000 seats, it seemed like 1,800 of them were occupied by Purdue fans. But it is still a neutral site game, and so you're going to get some good experience and a little bit of an NCAA tournament feel with this trip.
I believe the announcers even said that there were so many Purdue fans, it felt like it was Mackey South. But that's a knock. And before we wrap up, that is a kind of a knock that the Big Ten has had in the past 15 and you go 25 years since they've won a national championship. It'll be 26. I'm sorry, when we get to April. But the point being is the knock is the Big Ten. They put so many teams in because they've got good records, but they're not used to playing against teams that have different looks. And like you said, they play Big Ten teams over and over and beat the snot out of one another. And they see a lot of similar stuff. It really pays. That's why when it comes to Tom Izzo, most of the time, I put him right into the second weekend because of what they have done historically during the non-conference season and who they play. And Purdue's getting to that point now to where it's pretty much if wherever they're seated, depending on who it is that's in their part of the bracket, you're probably going to move them into that second weekend.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why Matt Painter loves scheduling these games. Even the non-power teams that they schedule. Akron's a good team. Oh, yeah. Oakland is picked to finish second in their league or maybe win their league. I think it was second though. I don't think Evansville is really, but sometimes you just have to fill your schedule and those games are going to pop up. But like, I don't think people understand, and I know we're talking about Texas Tech here, but I don't think people understand just how tough Purdue's schedule is from a Ken Palm net perspective. Like they just see the name on the front of the jersey and expect to win by 20, 25 points. But there's some teams that Purdue plays in non-power play that I wouldn't be surprised if they win a game or two in March Madness.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's definitely, you want them to win 40-0. Like I said, it's going to happen. There's only 35 more games that we got to win, and we'll be there. But you want them to win every game. But the big thing is I always want a regular season Big Ten championship. That's first on my list because, that's just the way I've been growing. A lot of people now are like, no, you got to have a run in March. No, that has a lot to do with matchups and how the brackets fall. If you can win one of the toughest conferences in all of basketball, that says a lot about your season. But Big Ten championship, regular season, and a run in March is the big thing. And these games get the Boilers ready for that definitely. So we definitely want to win tonight against Texas Tech, but it's definitely getting us geared up for the Big Ten season and for March in the long run as well.
Yes, sir. It's going to be another great test.
So excited. I love basketball season. I really do. So fun. Well, anyways, that brings us to the end of today's Boilermaker Lounge. Enjoy the game tonight, everybody. Dustin, thanks for filling in. We'll have you on again, here in the near future, so Grant can maybe show off a ring or something. I don't know what they give them if they win. I guess it's a ring. I don't know, but enjoy the game tonight. And for Dustin Schutte, I'm Sam Sprunger. We'll see you on Tuesday.